Okay. So there are some announcements. Again, we have a couple of announcements. First and foremost, make sure your reflective journals are open, your laptops are put away. You won't need your laptops until the very end of class. Tomorrow you will have an adding and subtracting negative numbers summative quiz. Again, tomorrow you will have an adding and subtracting negative numbers summative quiz. We will be exposed to all 10 questions because I'm going to have 32 practice problems for you to do today. Tonight's homework will be midpoint and distance formula, which include negative numbers. So the work that we do in class today will help you directly with your homework, which is using the midpoint and distance formula. When you're using the midpoint and distance formula, don't you find that you have negative numbers sometimes? Negative coordinates? That's why we're reviewing this. There should be 0 calculators out. You will not have access to a calculator on tomorrow's quiz. So if you have a calculator, make sure to put it away. You will not be able to use a calculator, including an Apple Watch tomorrow, so be very mindful. Make sure your reflective journals are out and open. Notes need to be taken on each rule. If I highlight something in blue on the board, I need you to write it down word for word. In addition, you're going to see a bunch of examples and practice problems. Copy down as many as you can because you will have those same problems for your quiz tomorrow. Capiche? Capiche? Great. Go ahead and title your notes. Again, title your notes, adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. So we want to put the header. The header is adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. Is that okay? Is that okay? I'm asking. Perfect. Let's go ahead and dive into the first one. So your title is adding positive and negative numbers. For the first section, we're going to have only adding right now. So the first rule, rule number 1, when adding numbers, the sign of the larger number wins. When you're adding two numbers, the sign of the larger number wins. Write that down. So, without even doing any math, I have positive 5 and negative 3. Which one's bigger, the positive or the negative?
Positive.
Great, let's go ahead and shout them all out. Positive 3 and negative 5, which one's bigger? Negative wins. Positive 9 plus negative 2, which one wins? Positive. Negative 9 plus positive 2, which one wins? Negative. Positive 8 plus negative 4, which one wins? Positive. Negative 8 plus positive 4, which one wins? Negative. Great. So all I've done is find out rule number 1, which sign is larger, and then put that as the winning sign. Now I'm ready to do my math. Are you ready for your next rule?
No.
It's coming. Rule number 2. Adding a negative to a positive is really like subtraction. Interesting. Did I just say we're going to be doing subtraction? I did. So class, what sign is this? Addition.
Addition.
So what's interesting is, even though you're supposed to be doing addition, because one of the numbers is negative, you end up actually doing subtraction. Are you ready to see are you ready to see how that would work? I'm going to say that one more time as you're writing stuff down. Even though all of these 6 examples have a plus sign, because you were adding one negative number, you end up actually doing subtraction. Are you ready to see how that would work?
Yeah.
Great, let's check this out. What is 5 minus 3?
2.
5 minus 3 is 2, so 5 plus negative 3 will also be 2. What is 5 minus 3?
Negative 2.
5 minus 3 is 2, so 3 plus negative 5 is going to be negative 2. Interesting. You take the bigger number and you just subtract the smaller number from it, and the bigger sign wins. So 9 plus negative 2. What's 9 minus 2? So the answer is positive 7. Negative 9 plus 2. What is 9 minus 2? It's also 7. Sorry, 9 minus 2 is also 7. We know this. So negative 9 plus positive 2 will be negative 7. Do you see how that would work? 8 minus 4, positive 4. Negative 8 plus positive 4, negative 4. Think of it this way. You owe your mom $8. You have negative $8 with her. You owe her $8. If you hand her $4, how much do you owe her?
4.
You still owe her 4. The answer is negative 4. Is that understood? The adding money to a debt makes the debt smaller. It takes away from the debt. You're subtracting from debt. It's really weird, I know. Okay, are we ready for the next one?
Wait.
Just copy down a few of the practice problems, 1 or 2 of them. You don't have to copy them all, but you do want to copy down some of these practice problems. So now that we have that, go ahead and take this time to try it on your own. There are 8 practice problems. You have 4 minutes to do as many of them as you can. I highly suggest you do all 8. You have enough time. Two questions. 2 more minutes. What's 11 minus 1? Yeah. Adding a negative to a positive is really like subtraction. Yeah, the answer is 10.
Wait, I didn't mess up.
Negative 11 plus 1 would be 10. So I want to see subtraction, okay? Okay, keep working. Go with your gut. So again, just go with your gut. There's 30 more seconds. Write down what you think it is. I will give you the correct answers in a moment. This is not a gotcha moment. I'm not trying to get you. I just want you guys to be able to check your work. The getcha moment will be tomorrow when we have this. And take a few seconds to check your work. Again, the answers are on the board. Make sure you're checking your work. Everybody check their work? We're all good? Great. Next. The next category is adding negative and negative numbers. This time they're both negative. Again, this time they're both going to be negative. So copy down this rule. Rule number 3. When adding two negative numbers, you create bigger debt and add the two numbers together. When adding two negative numbers, you create bigger debt and add the two numbers together. Bigger debt, bigger negative. For example, -5 plus -3. Say you owe your mom $5. You owe them -5. In addition, they're going to buy you some candy and sweets, and it costs $3 at the store, and she says, you owe me this money. So if you owed her $5, she's about to buy something for $3 more. How much do you owe in total? 8, because 5 plus 3 is 8. -5 plus -3 is -8. You have two friends. You owe Stacy $11, and you owe Eric $5. If you owe Stacy 11 and Eric 5, how much do you owe your friends in total? 16. So what you find is that when you add two negative numbers together, you end up getting a bigger negative. Capiche? -9 plus -2 is -11. -14 plus 2. Is this 2 negative?
No.
No, it's positive, so it ends up taking away from your debt. What's 14 minus 2? 12. Which sign wins, the negative or the positive?
Negative.
The negative wins. -8 plus -4. You owe Adam $8 and Sabrina 4. How much do you owe your friends in total? 12. A negative plus a negative is an even bigger negative. Any questions? A negative plus a negative is a negative. Some people think a negative and a negative is a positive. That is the case when we multiply. A negative times a negative is a positive. Again, a -5 times -3 will be positive 15. But we're not multiplying, we're adding. -5 plus -3 is an even bigger negative. You have 4 minutes on the clock. Go ahead and do these practice problems. Well, you should have a lot more practice points written down. You know, the summative, I'm asking you the same question I get to point as a summative quiz. Right? So I need you to be accustomed to write all of them down. Okay? We're gonna start this quarter off strong. We can run it. So go ahead. So, negative 11 plus, all of these are negative, so that's a negative 1. And when you add together two negative numbers, you get an even bigger negative. So negative 11 plus negative 1 is going to be, yep. But negative 1. Negative 11 plus negative 6 is going to be what? Have about 60 more seconds. Get some practice problems in. Again, you'll see these same questions again tomorrow. Negative 9. That was from the last one. Negative 9 plus negative 3, or negative, that's going to be negative 12. Make sure you're writing down those equals Great, go ahead and take this time to check over your work. Any questions? Great, so let's move on to the next section, subtracting positive and negative numbers. So, subtracting positive and negative numbers. When we did the addition of a positive and a negative, remember how when we did addition, it ended up being subtraction? Was that kind of weird? So when we add a negative and a positive together, we end up doing subtraction. Now that we're subtracting a positive from a negative, what do you think we're really doing?
Adding.
Adding. Yes, we do the opposite in a sense. That's why it's really important to understand these rules and to look at the different examples I'm giving you, because each kind of example has its own unique rule. So, when subtracting a positive from an already negative number, you also create bigger debt, aka you add. Again, surprise, surprise, you add.
Wouldn't it be smaller debt?
Nope. So, when subtracting a positive from an already negative number, you create bigger debt, you add. So even though this is subtracting, we're really adding. Let's go ahead and dive in. You owe your mom $5. She says, I can buy you dinner at McDonald's, but you're gonna have to pay me back. You say, great. You already owed her $5. She's about to buy another meal for $5. How much will you owe her in total?
10.
You'll owe her 10. Because you're about to owe her $5 more than you already did. Negative 5 minus 5. is negative 10. You owe Sabrina $11. You go out to eat with your friend, Adam, he buys your meal, you have to pay him back. Now you're about to owe your friends $7 more. How much do you owe your friends in total? 18. What is 8 plus 2? 8 plus 2 is 10, so negative 8 minus 2 is negative 10. What's 14 plus 2? 14 plus 2 is 16. Negative 14 minus 2 is what, class? Negative 16. What's 8 plus 4? 8 plus 4 is 12. So negative 8 minus 4 is negative 12. So we're really doing adding even though it's subtraction. However, the final answer will be negative. Any questions so far? Negative 8. You're about to take away 12 more. You're already 8 negative. You're going to take away 12 more. How much do you have now? Negative 20 is correct. Go ahead and write as many of those practice problems as you can, Campbell. Did you write down this rule? Okay, so you're gonna do this. There's gonna be a video for you to watch. You're gonna have to make it up if you want. I know, but you're not writing down myself. So if I don't do the rules, this is it. Here are 8 practice problems. Go ahead and take 4 minutes. So that's a great question. You're thinking of the bigger segments, even though in a sense, do you see, what number do you see there? What number do you see there? Isn't that crazy? That's why it ends up being an even bigger negative, because they're both kind of negative in a sense. Let's go ahead and check our work. This one wasn't too bad, right? Before we check our work, I know some of you guys are still working. There's something really interesting that one of our fellow students pointed out. So, what number do we see here? What number is that? A regular 9 or a? Negative 9. What number do we see here? Negative 8. So our answer better be what? It better be negative because they're actually both negative numbers. You have a negative 9 and a negative 8. You add them together, you get an even bigger negative. Very interesting. So you'll find that rule number 1, the sign of the bigger number wins, still applies. Because whether it's the negative 10 you're looking at, the negative 5, the negative 10, or the minus 11, these are all negative integers, negative 11 included. So that's why all of our answers are negative. Check your work, make sure you got them. Check your work. Last but not least, subtracting a negative. This is the most complicated of them all. Subtracting a negative. Before we go in here, I need somebody to read rule number 1. Who can read rule number 1? Go ahead, Campbell.
When adding numbers, the sign of the larger number wins.
Rule number 1, when adding numbers, the sign of the larger number wins. We have to remember that. Who can read rule number 2? Rule number 2. Adding a negative to a positive is like subtracting. Let's keep that in mind as we dive into, oops, not yet. Rule number 5. When subtracting a negative, cancel out the negative and add a positive. Write it down, write it down. I'll explain it after we write it down. So, subtracting a negative is like a reverse. Reverse, reverse. Yes, just like that. Come on, I'm really down. You literally go forwards and okay. Fine. Subtracting a negative is like reverse. Entertainment, please.
Wait, is that what is that bottom part? That's a part of Rule 5.
Yes,
right?
it's
Okay.
highlighted in blue.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and look at the first example. Negative 8 minus negative 5. If you are still writing, I highly recommend you look at the board at this time because you will have time to finish the rule, but I need you to look at what I'm about to do. Do I have everyone's attention? Great. Again, do I have everyone's attention? Make sure you're focused on just this for now. Negative 8 minus negative 5. There's a negative and a negative side by side. Because there's two negatives, I want you to connect them, and create a positive. What do we see now? Negative 8 plus 5. Say it with me. Negative 8 plus 5. So we can rewrite this problem as negative 8 plus 5. We have a negative 8 and a positive 5. Which sign wins? Negative 8. So the negative is going to be our answer. What's 8 minus 5? 3. And again, remember, adding a positive and a negative is like subtracting. Isn't that rule number 2? So here, to do this one, you need to know rule number 1, rule number 2, and rule number 5.
So we don't subtract.
You're going to subtract, correct. And you're going to make the answer the positive. Now, you don't subtract every time because look right here. Here we have 11 minus negative 7. 11 minus negative 7. You connect them. What's this problem now?
11 plus 7.
11 plus 7. Should your answer be negative? Absolutely not. 11 plus 7 is what? 18. 8 minus negative 2. Terrace, how would we rewrite this problem? 8 minus negative 2 can be rewritten as what? That's correct. 8 plus 2. And 8 plus 2 is what? 10. Great. Negative 14 minus negative 2. Chad, how can we rewrite this?
Turn the two negatives to positive.
So what would the final thing be?
12. Negative 12.
Negative 12, because negative 14 minus negative 2 is really negative 14 plus 2. The negative sign wins, and 14 minus 2 is equal to 12. Great.
A really good way of remembering it is because sometimes what they'll do, since there's still the subtraction sign, they'll put the negative in a parentheses. You could just put it one line as a minute.
Period. Go off. Yes. Negative 8 minus negative 4. Negative 8 minus negative 4 is going to be negative 8 plus 4, which is negative 4. Negative 8 plus 12, which sign wins? The negative or the positive?
Positive.
The positive. What is 12 minus 8? 4. Did everyone write this down? Perfect. You have your practice problems here. Again, you will see these practice problems tomorrow for a summative quiz. So go ahead and make sure that as you write these, I want to see you do this. When you write them, I want to see you automatically turn it in like that. Please do that for me. Thanks, Jen.
So like that. Because they have a subtraction
Well, just for sharing that's us. Bye, guys.
He might steal your phone. Be careful.
No, he would never.
I have two phones. I don't need
Yeah, he already has a phone.
I know. I'm joking.